There's something seriously wrong with the criminal justice system in our country, and specifically New South Wales, in regard to young men being pursued through the courts by the Crown over sexual assault cases that are based on what would seem to often be pretty flimsy foundations. And something needs to be done about it before any more families suffer the hell of having a young son dragged through courts on charges as serious as rape for doing nothing legally wrong, no matter what we might think about the morality or quality of their behaviour generally. This story from the Sydney Morning Herald this week. A man cried and embraced his family as he was found not guilty of raping a University of Sydney student after a party at St Paul's College campus. Darcy Clinton had pleaded not guilty to having sexual intercourse without consent against the then 18-year-old complainant following a dress-up party at a university bar in late 2022. The Sydney Morning Herald reports that the trial heard that Clifton had attended the party at around 7:30 p.m. The complainant was deemed to be drunk and was refused attempts to buy more drinks, the court was told. She apparently left the party with her friends at around the same time as Clifton left the party with his mates. She and Clifton kissed on the university grounds before catching an Uber together back to his Rose Bay apartment where they had sex. Clifton's lawyer argued the woman was a, quote, mutual, active and agreeable participant, while the Crown prosecutor, that's the government's lawyer paid for by your tax dollars, said no, she was in the midst of, quote, an alcoholic blackout and was incapable of consenting. Now, the woman in this case earlier testified that she didn't remember the sexual encounter until later finding a video and audio recording of it saved on her phone. Clifton said the recordings were made consensually. Otherwise, why would they be on her phone? Also, not a bad idea for young men to protect themselves this way these days, perhaps. It's sad that we have to even be saying something like that, but it's actually arguably true in the reality of our modern society, and cases like this one do seem to prove it. Anyway, the Sydney Morning Herald story says the defence argued that the woman was not too drunk to consent, that CCTV footage of the pair walking from the university grounds to the Uber showed that she was, quote, actively and enthusiastically participating in the passionate kissing, that Clifton himself was also seen stumbling, and that their intoxication eased from then onwards. The report goes on to say that the video taken of their sexual act showed that she was smiling throughout and that the intercourse captured was not aggressive, hard or fast, unquote. Are we happy, folks, that our society's reached a point where courts are discussing the type of sex that two adults are having in their private homes to determine whether it was consensual or not? I mean, it's just my opinion, but it seems very Orwellian 1984 stuff to me. There's some things that we maybe just have to accept that we just can't police in our society. Maybe we need a law that says, once you enter that house, there's not much the law can do to help you because the law can simply never really know what goes on. I mean, it's actually very possible that if this kid had not filmed this sex act, and God knows why they did, who knows, he could be actually spending the next 5 to 10 years in jail with his entire future ruined. Now, I know rape can occur after a drunk girl goes home with a guy and gets into his bed. But really, at that point, can we police it without it becoming just way too dangerous, that false accusation based on nothing more than moral remorse the day after, and I'm not saying that took place in this case, but something like that could happen a significant amount of time, and that would put all of our sons at very grave risk? That is the question that we need to be asking ourselves as a society. But back to the Sydney Morning Herald story. Clifton's lawyer testified that it'd be a strange thing for him to make the recordings and leave them on the woman's phone if she wasn't consenting. Okay, now I want you to imagine for a minute that this guy's your son. He's 22 years old. The whole family's endured this since the charges were first brought. It's been 2 years of hell. You've had to sit through a trial with 2 weeks' worth of evidence. And so as I read the next bit of the newspaper story, just imagine you're the mum or dad or the sister or brother of this guy. The 12-person jury retired at about 12 p.m. on August 13 to deliberate and delivered 2 notes to the judge in the following days, expressing that they'd been unable to reach a verdict. Judge Jenny Girdham first gave a direction to them saying the jury should continue deliberating, and a second direction on Tuesday afternoon to try to reach a majority verdict, which would require 11 of the 12 jurors to reach a unanimous decision, the Sydney Morning Herald reports. They returned their not guilty verdict at about 12 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon, the 20th, which was this past Wednesday, which is a week later. The Sydney Morning Herald story goes on. During its closing remarks on Wednesday, the judge told the parties, "We have a note and we have a verdict." Clifton breathed slowly and deeply, occasionally closing his eyes as he waited for the jury to walk in. When the jurors said not guilty to the judge's associate, he moved his head back and looked up, while his supporters in the public gallery became emotional. As Clifton was told he was free to go by the judge, he walked over to his family and embraced them. His mother put her hands in the seat in front of her, bowed her head, and was comforted by her husband. His family hugged him and wept. I really think we've got to ask ourselves, how does a case like this even get to court? How could there have ever been enough prima facie evidence in this case for it to proceed unless there was perhaps a sense of ideological activism happening somewhere within the New South Wales public service? It's fair to just ask that question, I think. And do we want our tax dollars being used in this manner in Australia? I know a lot's already been written about the problems within the system in that state in newspapers like The Australian and others. We do need, of course, to protect young women from actual rapists, but we've also got to protect young men and their families from tortuous legal processes like this. We really haven't got the balance right as a country yet, but we need to be able to have this discussion, and we need to have it. The injustice is real. It is happening. And even in cases where, thank God, his family are spared any future hell with an erroneous guilty verdict and years of unjust imprisonment, they've already paid the massive price of years of hell in a system where the slow, expensive and arduous process is the punishment, you could argue. And it's got to stop. If you like The Other Side, one of the best ways you can support us is by signing up for the products of our sponsors. And one of our best sponsors is PIA VPN, the virtual private network that stops people spying on your internet activity. It'll keep you and your family truly safe from the prying eyes of big governments and corporations without slowing down your internet speeds. And you can watch Netflix or other streaming services using your regular accounts with them as if you're viewing from any country in the world. You can sign up for less than $3 a month and get a whopping 83% off the normal price. Just go to piavpn.com/otherside to sign up and you'll get the discount. And you'll get more info on those special deals if you check it out. That's piavpn.com/otherside. That was a segment clip from our weekly Friday night news show, The Other Side, which you can watch in full by simply going to YouTube and searching up The Other Side Australia. Then you'll find our full shows playlist. You can also find all of our full shows and our segments on our own website, othersidetv.com.au. That's othersidetv.com.au. Help us build a whole new Aussie media by joining us over there and joining up, signing up for the exclusive side.